My name is Cynthia Loren. I'm the founder and lead strategist at Loren Gold Consulting, LGC Africa. We are an Africa-focused business advisory service. We work with law firms, in-house legal teams, government offices who are focused on upskilling themselves from a marketing and business development front. My guest for this afternoon is Jorge Almeida. Jorge has over 20 years experience in project management, marketing, business development, and corporate strategy within the legal services industry. Jorge started his career in private practice as a corporate lawyer, and then transitioned into legal services, marketing, and business development in 2006. He joined CMS in 2012 as Director of Marketing and Business Development at the Portuguese office. And since 2015, he's been involved with the CMS Africa initiative, supporting the development and definition of the firm's strategy across Africa. As of January this year, Jorge now focuses exclusively on CMS Africa business development. So Jorge, a very warm welcome to you all the way from Lisbon in Portugal. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Perhaps we can begin by asking you to tell us a little bit about the work that you're currently doing, especially since becoming exclusively Africa focused. You know, what does that mean in terms of your day-to-day tasks that you undertake?
Cynthia, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity given to CMS and to myself. Congratulations for this great initiative that you have here. This is an amazing initiative. I feel a lot of demand of this kind of initiatives regarding marketing and business development, especially in Africa. Well, my role changed in January this year. As you told, I've been involved for several years in the CMS Africa initiative. The CMS and Africa initiative started as a group composed by African practitioners in the offices, in the teams, in the African teams in France, in Portugal, in UK, and with the African offices that we had on that time in Morocco, Algeria, in the Francophone Africa, and also in Angola. We developed a strategy of growing geographically, an expansion, and growing our group that ended with last year's, culminated in last year's joining of CMS Kenya, CMS Daily Nambar, and CMS RM Partners in South Africa. Since then we have now a different organization. We have a steering committee group composed by the African partners from all the African practices. And we have in our structure, an executive team, which I work very closely, developing our strategy. We have our own budget, and we have our own initiatives, marketing and business development initiatives within CMS. I'm also part of the international business development team. And one of my functions is also to make the bridge between the African practices, firms, etc., with the European or the other CMS offices that we have in Europe, Latin America, Asia, etc. Yes, my role, we develop annually a lot of initiatives, and my role has been that.
Yeah. For now. Okay. And in terms of, the fact that CMS is interested in Africa, it would be great to sort of explain why that is. I know that's the case for a lot of international firms.
Let me only add, Cynthia, to the last question that in my functions I count with the support of the local business development teams where they exist, and also with some where they don't, with some lawyers are involved with this, because we have, as you may know, different kind of offices of different dimensions, different structures, and sometimes they have marketing or business development teams, sometimes they don't, but in that cases lawyers are involved, and with my support, and I count with that support that I have to mention.
Okay, and it's good that you mentioned that, and I'll come back to that in a second, because we have a number of business development professionals within other firms in Africa on this call, so it would be good for them to sort of hear some of what you do with those that are on the ground. But before we get there, it would be great to just get a little bit of insight in terms of, what is the firm's interest in Africa? Why is Africa important, as a market?
Cynthia, as a global firm, CMS has to be present in Africa, and is part of the strategy, the growth strategy of CMS to growth geographically in other continents, but also in Africa. We have a few offices, but still there are key jurisdictions and key regions that we want to grow, and so of course the responding to your question, I think Africa is the obvious response is Africa is a continent that will develop a lot. We see now, we anticipate that a lot of sectors besides energy infrastructures, the obvious ones, will be developing soon: the agribusiness, leisure, consumer goods, services, digital infrastructures, etc. So Africa is an obvious place to grow for CMS.
Okay, and you've mentioned. Sorry, go on.
And there are still key jurisdictions or regions that we want or we plan to grow.
Okay.
We soon we'll have some, I hope, some news regarding the developments of some contacts in one or two jurisdictions, and we plan in our strategies. We have also plans to grow in others.
Okay.
To expand our geographic presence in others.
So just on that, because you've kind of mentioned key jurisdictions, and I know we have sort of representation from across sub-Saharan Africa listening in today. Are you able to give us some insight into the jurisdictions that you consider to be key as a firm, either historically or in terms of developments at the moment?
I think there are obvious jurisdictions where we don't have presence that we should be there: Nigeria, Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, etc. I think there are the main Africa. Within the main Africa jurisdictions, we don't have presence in some. So I would say that these ones are these are examples that we are looking at too.
Okay. And obviously, there's been the news last year about the expansion of CMS into South Africa and Kenya. With in South Africa, I think it's RM Partners, and in Kenya with Dali and Inamda Advocates. So I'm curious to understand why those firms. What is it? How hard is it to identify which firms to tie up with, and what is it that you specifically look for, using those particular firms in Kenya and South Africa as an example?
Yes. Well, first of all, in the ending my last response, I should say also that we don't want to have CMS offices or firms in all Africa jurisdictions. It's not our main objective, but only in the key jurisdictions. Now, responding now to your question now, I guess we don't have a process of identifying firms. We have, as an African practice, we work with Africa for a long time. Our French office have more than 50 years of experience working with Africa. So we know the market, and we have a lot of best friend firms that we work with. But more than that, we go to main Africa events like the IBA events, main conferences, and in that we also contact with other lawyers or firms. But more when we identify a key region that we want to expand, we try to study the legal market on this region. We try to identify the main players that can be interesting and that can have a good match with CMS at a structural level, technological level, etc., that can match with us, and that fills our demands, and also if that we think that CMS could be interesting for them, because it has to be firms that want to be international and want to have to belong to an international firm. Then we discuss among each other with the contacts that we have, etc., and with the experience that we have with those firms, and we identify some, and we contact them, or they sometimes. It can be the contrary, but we contact them. We try to schedule meetings, and we start a process that takes some time, and we meet, and we see if both parts have this will of going ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned, you've just touched on sort of researching the legal market within a particular jurisdiction. And something that I get asked all the time, particularly with clients that I work with, is how do we get on the radar for a particular firm? So when you are doing your research into a target jurisdiction, or looking for a group of firms, what are you looking at? How do you work out who's the best firm, or who's the most active firm within a particular jurisdiction?
I have some ways for that. First of all, and the main one is obvious, the contact that we in CMS have already with firms on this jurisdiction. Though of course we have to go to also the obvious, the legal directories that still I consider them important when you don't know the market or the firms personally, or we don't have contacts with them. It's important. It's something that we can rely, and then we look at the information that we have, the website, the legal directories, all, and we understand if this firm is. We look at the digital media, their presence, and we see if we take some lessons, some messages from that, and then it's a question of then meeting the firms in person and feel that and start and to understand their strategy, their energy, etc. Yeah.
Okay. And, when I imagine that, much like me, when I was doing a similar role, you probably have participated in these meetings, or are certainly aware of these meetings where partners are meeting potential law firm partners, or just interacting with fee earners. Can you tell us a bit about things that stand out when you're meeting an individual? So let's say a managing partner of a firm in a jurisdiction you're not familiar, or even in a jurisdiction you're familiar with, but maybe you haven't done any work with that firm. Are there things that sort of stand out to you about the way lawyers conduct themselves? And equally, are there things that sort of put you off, when you see or hear certain things?
Well, I guess you things that could stand out is their strategy for the firm. I would say their ambitions for the firm, their plans. Because if they have their organization, internal organization, their structure, and their plans and their strategy. Because and the firms that join us are good examples. They wanted, it was in their strategy to be an international, or to belong to an international firm. So I think to hearing their plans for their own firm and how they think the market and their future is something that stands out. Okay.
And then conversely, are there things that you or partners within your firm would sort of observe about a law firm and think, nope, that's a no, we just wouldn't work with them?
Yeah, I think, well, we search, I would say, and it's my personal thoughts for what our main objectives is to search for a medium-sized firm. It depends on the market, of course, but medium-sized firm, which still doesn't belong to a national network, whatever, but with some ambitious and some sophistication in terms of technology, digital, etc. Because when a firm joins CMS, there is after that a big onboarding process, because we share our IT, we share a lot of IT systems, we share the same website, the same email platforms, some knowledge management, whatever. So it's important that in the practical terms, if they have some technology and some sophistication within the technology, but the main, we look at that, for sure.
Okay. And are there, obviously legal tech is a big, is a hot topic right now for everybody, whether you're in private practice, in-house. Are there technology tools that you would recommend at the moment for law firms, on the continent to be thinking about, just in terms of their own development? Now, obviously that, there are the basic things like making sure you have a website and some sort of internal practice management system, but do you have any views or thoughts or advice on that kind of thing?
Yeah, as you say, it's very important, of course, the usual things, the website, but regarding the website and LinkedIn presence and digital presence, I guess they have to, firms should bet on having a dynamic presence, not only have the website and it's there, okay, but to feed LinkedIn, to feed with modern content. I think video is gaining a lot of space on the last times, especially in these COVID times that we live in. The video is becoming more and more important because we don't have live events. We have a lot of webinars. They are very important, of course, and to especially with a targeted audience, small, preferentially small, that can intervene. It's good, but that's why I think webinars, videos, these kind of technology tools are very important nowadays, because we don't have the physical meetings, the physical conferences that we have to complete this.
Yes.
So we have to step with the digital.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really glad that you just made that point about video marketing, Jorge, because it's something that comes up a lot. So we will regularly run social media training for firms that work with us or that we advise. And it's really interesting to note how few firms have cottoned on to the need to focus on things like video marketing. So actually using that, I mean, you've talked about tying that to your website. So, it's one thing to have a webinar and invite people and, it's live, but actually what do you do with that content afterwards? Are you seeding that and making sure that, you're able to leverage that post-event and you tie it to social media, et cetera. So
is the same when a lawyer spends a lot of time and spends is expensive time doing an article. It will spread the article everywhere. This article doesn't have effective lots of time. So it's the same now with the webinars. With the promotion of the webinars that most firms are doing, but also they have to get the most out of it. Yeah.
No, good stuff. Jorge, I'm interested to know, what do you like the most about doing, the role that you do, or about having an Africa role? Because obviously you've gone from sort of dabbling a bit with Africa strategy and, having some involvement to now being exclusively focused on it. So clearly this is a passion for you. What is it that you enjoy about the role that you do?
Well, first of all, as you know, I love my role, and it's been very interesting to have now this role exclusively with Africa. And what I would highlight here is the possibility, and the thing that I mentioned. We have different realities in Africa, different sizes of firms, etc. And I love, or I really enjoy to be part of their development as offices, as firms. I like to, I like to help them, to advise them. Sometimes I work almost as advising them in their internal structure. How can they develop and structure? And this is really, I really feel very helpful with that, and that's very good for me personally. Fulfill me a lot, especially when there are firms that, for example, they don't have marketing or business development inside structure, or even sometimes I feel that firms, some African firms want to do more. They are eager to do more on that, but they really don't know how to approach these topics, and it really fulfills me to help them, to advise them on that, to help them on that.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear. And you talked a bit at the beginning about, actually having some marketing and BD people on the ground in Africa. I know, just looking at the list of participants, I know that there are people listening in this afternoon who are doing those roles. Obviously, this is, there's been a bit of an evolution over the last decade, I'd say, where African law firms are taking on marketing and business development people and beginning to recognize it, as a skill and an area of expertise in its own right. What advice would you give, a BD professional who is in an African law firm, in terms of what do you think it takes to be really good at this stuff? What for you makes a great marketing and BD professional in a law firm?
Well, I think how can I say, the we have to do a lot of different things, different kind of things, and we have to do them well. So how can I say, the polyvalence, the adaptability of different situations, etc. I think one thing that is very important is we have to understand the business, the legal business, the legal market very well, and I think, in my opinion, that we have to connect with other colleagues. We have to get in touch with other colleagues. I have the lucky of being part of the international business development team in CMS. We exchange a lot of experiences, and that helps us a lot in developing our own work, sharing experiences with colleagues in other firms. But let me tell you, I was thinking before when you were making this question, also what I would highlight here is that also the lawyers also do a lot of business development and should do, and the best, I used to say that the best business developments are the lawyers. Sometimes because they really, because of the nature of the services that we provide, or it's based on confidence. So the best people to do business development are the lawyers, but we help them, we support them, and it's our role and to support them on that. But I was thinking, it was very curious when I remember when I was when the Kenyan firm joined us. I was there in the beginning and met a lot of or most of the people in the office, and I remember that young associates were really so eager to do things in business development, but they didn't know how. But they were asking me, how can we be more active? How can we can start to intervene and to be active? And I gave them a session afterwards with some tools that they could use, and also some tips. And CMS has a very interesting program, which is a learning and development program, and it's one of my main projects for later this year. Unfortunately, we will do it virtually because it would be different to have CMS has a so-called CMS Academy. It's a program of training and development in soft skills for the associates or different or different. It can be for partners, etc. But this in this case for the African firms, we are organizing one for the associates. Is done together with the collaboration with the IMD Business School in Lausanne, in Switzerland, and we collaborate with them here in Europe, and we are organizing a session also in Africa for our lawyers, and it's very good. It's good for the young associates to have contact with or to have training in soft skills as well. I consider that very important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, just the point around the business development that is done by the lawyers themselves still remains, that's critical. So in as much as firms are taking on marketing and BD people, that doesn't detract at all from the fact that this has to be about lawyers and, learning how to market legal services. And for me, having been a corporate lawyer and then moved into BD, much like yourself, I think it's all about making the lawyers look good. And sometimes that takes a bit of a mental shift when you have been the fee earner and you're used to being, the person that is being made to look good, and now your role becomes almost, the support. But it's a really essential support, making sure that the lawyers have the tools that they need to do what they do well.
And not all the lawyers have that.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. It's difficult to have this kind of a conversation without talking about the pandemic. So let me ask my one question about COVID-19, which we are all learning to live with. What has been for you guys the biggest impact on your business and on your Africa play as a result of the pandemic? Has anything changed? Is it still, obviously there's the obvious, we can't travel anywhere and we're doing everything by video and webinar and that kind of thing. But in terms of your strategy and the way you view Africa, has the pandemic had an impact at all? Talk to us a little bit about that.
What we feel in terms of business is that for us, and it still didn't have a lot of impact. I would say that it has more impact in the day-to-day local companies. And that has impact in our clients, that's this kind of clients or type of clients, but not, we still see a lot of the main or the major international projects going ahead. We still see, or we see now a lot of interest and an increase of activity of the multilaterals. We see, well, we don't see that the business has changed so far. Of course, talking about the big and major projects within the continent. Well, in terms of our activity, I'm now working in our activity in marketing and business development. I'm working now, or we are working in our budget for next year, and it's a challenge these times that we can predict, but we hope that last year we are predicting, or we hope that we start again traveling, and we are considering to have again some presences in some conferences, and some I'm considering to have that I will have my Africa Academy in a presential mode and not virtual. Like next year, we will see, but at least in the second half. But as I was telling you, we were obliged to turn even more to digital, and we are considering that it's inevitable to. We did some colleagues in CMS did a very interesting internal document for us, a Plan B document. Which were about that's alternatives that we have, not so expensive, and that we can do webinars, the obvious ones, but with some tips to do it correctly, and to do it again, speaking about the videos, it's easy and not expensive to do. With the tools that we already have, with an iPhone, we can do relatively good quality video nowadays.
Okay. And in terms of sort of markets, or sorry, not markets, sectors, are you seeing, have you observed any changes because of the pandemic? So are there practice areas that are seeing a lot more work since the pandemic, and conversely, practice areas that have literally fallen off, particularly from an Africa perspective?
No, as I told you, what I see an increase of activity from multilaterals in big projects. I think at the end of the day, the infrastructures, energy, etc., will remain their activity,
right?
But we anticipate that we'll have more disputes, for example, questions, because more an area that weren't so active, maybe, or weren't typical in Africa. Restructurings. We see a slowdown in the hotel and leisure and tourism activities or business activities on that. Though we are having some hotels operations as well, because these times also create opportunities. So we for now, Cynthia, and I can't give you more. That for now, what we see is that we continue. The big projects are still continue. We don't have a slowdown in our African practices so far. We're only in the day-to-day local companies, etc.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great to hear, and great, for those that are listening in to hear that, it's not quite business as usual, but things are still happening.
The question here: we can't visit clients. We can't. I think it's more on the way that we gain more new clients is the issue here. We can visit them. It's not. We don't have the conferences. We don't have the presential size.
Yeah. I mean, just out of interest, are you seeing? I was speaking to someone from another firm here in the UK yesterday, and they were saying that they're quite surprised that they have acquired new clients in Africa, in the markets that they're focused on during the pandemic. So for them, they thought that it would really just be about maintaining relationships, but actually, there's been acquisition in terms of, gaining market share, gaining new clients. Would you say, what's the position for CMS? Are you seeing the same? Okay.
The same. We are. It's curious. It's very good that we are having new clients. Yeah. And even in the Pan-African perspective, we are gaining some. We are gaining some new panels, or we got into some new panels. We are having really new clients, and that's positive and very good.
Yeah.
Let's see if this tender continues. Yeah.
No, good stuff.
And let me add, the new clients that I see is also related to the multilaterals as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So mainly in the FI space, in the financial institutions space.
Yes, but not all. Even in consumer, etc.
Okay.
With the companies, during these times we have worked for them. Yeah. We have gained some new clients on that.
Okay. Good. Well, we hope it continues. I have two more light-hearted questions that I sort of want to ask you about yourself. But before we get there, I just want to check whether anyone in the audience, anyone that's listening in, has any questions that they would like to ask Jorge, or either about his role or about CMS as a firm. If you do, please just note that in the chat now, and I will read that out at the end. But yes, before we get to that point, I have two questions, and this is me being nosy as opposed to it being relevant for the purposes of marketing and BD. But Jorge, what's your favorite place or most memorable African destination?
I will say two.
Okay, that's fine. We'll accept two.
Yeah. Well, in terms of beauty and I love Marrakesh. Marrakesh is quite close to me. I'm based in Lisbon, as you know, and it's I have very good memories of nice trips to Marrakesh. But I would highlight, and I had a very big connection with Kenya. I felt, well, first of all, I was quite impressed with the wildlife conservation in Kenya. which is one of the countries that have that better organized, I would say, in Africa, and I felt a very big connection with the people, the Kenyan people. So I have to highlight that, and Marrakesh, it's beautiful.
I'm sure the Kenyans will be very pleased to hear that.
No, but well, I can say I have a big connection with all the countries that I work closely, and for sure. But I would highlight that.
Those two. Okay.
Yes.
Great. And then complete for me this sentence. If I wasn't doing this job, I would be.
I would have continued to be a lawyer, not so happy, not so fulfilled, but I would be a lawyer. I love this sector, and as I discussed with you before, I love what I do, and I love to work in marketing and business development within this sector. When I became a lawyer 20 years ago. I was, and here, at least here in Portugal, the legal marketing was starting. I thought, I love this. I want to, one day I would love to do this, but I didn't know how, but the opportunities came, and I'm here.
It's great. I mean, and I like the fact that we are like-minded in that sense, because like you, 20 years ago when I was a fee earner, I was an okay fee earner, was, pretty good at what I did, but I wouldn't say I was fantastic or had great ambitions for it. But actually, doing legal services, marketing and business development is something I absolutely am passionate about, committed to, very good at. So it's nice to be able to find, roles that make you happy and that you can use your skills. Because I think actually, there are so many transferable skills, things that we learn as fee earners, we can then adapt and apply to sort of marketing, law and law firms.
Absolutely. It's regarding that, and if we have time, it's curious. I don't have a clear idea of what the background that a good marketing and business development manager or head or whatever has to have. Maybe this I would say that the legal background is quite important to understand this very unique sector.
I would agree.
I don't. Yeah, with combined with other experiences and other that can be a good background for this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a long running sort of debate in a number of firms where you find that lawyers will often move into marketing and BD roles, and then you have people that approach it without any legal background, and you can be great at it without necessarily, you don't have to be a lawyer to be good at marketing and BD. But the one important thing is understanding what it is that you're marketing. Obviously, as a marketer, you need to understand, what it is in the same way that you would perhaps market a product. You've got to understand what you're selling in terms of the service. And I think that's possibly why having had a background as a lawyer sometimes helps, because you see beyond just, project finance or infrastructure or whatever. You actually understand what it is that we're looking at when we're trying to sell this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Jorge. No questions have come through, so that either means that our audience are asleep, or that we've covered everything, and therefore, we've done such a thorough job that they don't need to ask us anything. I think I'll opt for the latter. I'm going to round it up there. Thank you so much for taking time out today to speak to us. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you, getting to know you, and getting to understand the role that you do. And yeah, really well done on everything that CMS is doing. Part of the reason I reached out was because of that, because I saw a couple of things on LinkedIn and I saw your posts, and I kind of thought, I became very curious. So it just goes to show that stuff actually works, because you certainly piqued my interest in terms of understanding what your Africa strategy is. And, you know, I know that you've got lots of exciting things in the pipeline. So we wish you continued success with the role that you do. And thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and please continue also your good work on these kind of initiatives. They really are important for us, and I consider them very. And you are doing them very well. Congratulations for that. Well done. And yeah, it was really a pleasure to meet you. And what you were talking about, also seeing things on LinkedIn, etc., proves that the digital is very important nowadays.
Absolutely.
Our message here. But no, it was great to meet you, and great to meet this initiative of LG Pulse.
Thank you.
And please continue the good work.
Will do. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Please do keep watching. We will have further interviews lined up. So if you're interested, please get in touch. If you would like to know more about CMS and their strategy, or if you want to connect with Jorge, please drop me a line and I will happily connect you. But we will leave it there. Have a fantastic afternoon, everybody, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.